Hi, everyone, and welcome to Pathways to Knowledge. As you can see, we're doing a little bit differently this week because last week, when I took Ellen out, it also took my mic out. So we're going to have both of us here. Ellen has joined us already. So, Elena, welcome to Pathways.
Thank you for having me. Welcome, everyone, to our show. I think we're going to have a real interesting show today.
Yes, in case you haven't paid close attention, we're going to channel with Princess Diana, the Prince of Wales, who was died very immature. I can't even come up with the word, but she died way too soon. I think that's what I'm trying to say here. So anyway, Elena, we might as well just start and see where we're headed here.
Great. As you know, Diana was the Princess of Wales, and she was born Diana Frances Spencer on the 1st of July in 1961, and she died on August 31st, 1997. She was a member of the British royal family. She was the first wife of Charles III, who was then Prince of Wales and mother of Prince William and Harry. Her activism and glamour made her an international icon, and she earned her enduring popularity. Princess Diana, thank you for joining us tonight. Would you like to begin with an opening message?
Yes, I would. It's really nice to be back. One thing, heaven is incredible, but we really don't get a chance to talk to the people from over here. I always enjoyed being with the people. I felt very close to them because I always considered myself basically a common person. When you're a member of the royal family thinks they're a little bit better than anyone else. Well, I'll just leave it at that. But thank you so much. I see you've got some really interesting questions to ask, and I'll answer them truthfully. I always did. I think that's what got me in trouble a lot of times. But anyway, it's a pleasure to be here. Nice meeting you, Elena. I have been watching some of the work you've been doing, and thank you so much for supporting Barry and Connie. So anyway, as far as I'm concerned, we can get on with the messages.
All right. Would you please tell us a little bit about your early life?
Well, my family had royal family connections. We weren't real close to the royal family, but I did grow up. I got to know some of the members. I had met the Queen before. But when I finished my education, and yes, I did have a pretty elite education. I went to a girls' school, all the things that you were supposed to do in my social level over in England. I guess I would like to say from the beginning that I enjoyed being with the people. I was working in charities, and even in an early age, I did what I could to help other people. I did meet Charles. We did wind up being married, but I think that I always remained that simple person, the person that was just wanted to be accepted by others. Quite often it doesn't happen. When you join the royal family, everything changes. You're continuously in the spotlight. Everyone wants to know everything about your life. You need to hide your personal feelings because the family basically tells you how they want you to live your life, the expectations, everything that goes with it. So I consider myself a relatively common person, and I tried to maintain my stability throughout my life. So I guess that answers your question as best as I can right now.
Mm-hmm. How did you meet Charles, who was then the Prince of Wales?
Well, Charles was 12 years older than I was. And I was introduced to him. He was actually dating my sister. And I got to know him in that manner. And he asked if he could pursue perhaps marriage with me. And I went along with his plan. I knew in my heart there were going to be problems. I knew that he had a relationship with a woman. I honestly felt that if I did my best, he would not continue that relationship. But as you know, that did not work out the way that I hoped it would. And it had an effect on me personally, and I did things I shouldn't have done. But I was introduced to him, really met him, as I said, while he was dating my sister. So it was kind of a strange relationship from the start.
How would you describe Charles?
Charles had the typical royal family arrogance. When you're born into the royal family, especially when you know that you're next in line to be the king, it has let's just say, a very telling effect. He really, well, I guess the easiest way to say it, when you live a life where you've never had to open a door for yourself, it has an effect on you. He had all the butlers, all the trappings of royalty, and he truly felt that he was much better than the average person. But it's very understandable. Charles definitely has an arrogance about him. He has a superiority complex. He thinks that he can basically do whatever he wants to do because he's a member of the royal family. And that is really, I guess, what led us to problems from the beginning of our relationship.
What were your thoughts when he asked you to marry him?
It was an amazing situation. How many people are asked to marry the future King of England? It's to be chosen for that position. I knew there were immense downsides to it. But when he proposed, my whole family was so much in favor of this because they had, as I said, the relations with the royal family through the years. They had titles, and they thought that this was the ultimate. This was the greatest thing that could ever happen to their family. So they really were, everyone was in favor of it. They knew who Charles was. They knew the downsides, but they felt that I would be able to manage them and be able to get through the relationship. To be the mother of the future king or queens of England. I mean, it's a very, very unique situation to be put into. And I guess I had stars in my eyes and wanted to know the trappings and be part of the royal family. So I accepted.
You said you were aware that he had a relationship with another woman, but when did you become aware that it was Camilla Parker Bowles?
Oh, I knew that before we got married. Everyone knew that he had been very close to Camilla through the years. Everyone knew that even though he was dating other people, he was still having a relationship with Camilla. We had actually discussed it before we got married, but he said that was behind him and that he was going to devote himself to our relationship because he admitted that the Queen did not think that Camilla would fit into the royal family and that she felt that I would. So he was not exactly truthful about what was going to take place.
Speaking of the Queen, what was your relationship like with the Queen?
In the beginning, I think she was just thankful that I wasn't Camilla. She accepted me. She said that she gave him permission to propose to me. It wasn't, when you're entering the royal family, it's a very, very different situation. They know that you have to act like royalty. And they felt that with my appearance, with what I had done with charities and things, that even though I was thought of as a commoner, that I would make an ideal wife for Charles. I think the Queen realized that Charles had his problems, and she felt that I would be able to overcome some of them for him. So once the Queen said that she thought that I would make a wonderful member of the family, what could I say? At that point, there was no way out.
Well, now that the Queen has crossed over, have you had any encounters with her? Has your relationship changed in any way?
We don't spend much time together over here. In the beginning, she thought I was an incredible person. But when I wanted a divorce from her son, her attitude changed drastically. She felt that there should be no divorce in the royal family. And when I followed through with it, she had great animosity that I had done this, that I had brought down the family in certain respects, because I had indicated the shortcomings of her son, Charles. And let's just say that there is still negativity between us over here. I really don't see her that much. I have seen her. Over here, there's no hatred, so we did have conversations, and we discussed pretty much what took place. And I'm not good to say anything bad about her. She was a good leader for England. She did many good things, but there were many things that she hid from the public. So I think I would rather just leave it like that.
While you were pregnant with Prince William, you fell down a flight of steps. Was this an accident? And if not, what was happening that caused you to try to take your own life?
I was very, very depressed. I felt that I was unable to live up to the expectations, because when you enter the royal family, everything changes. The expectations are that you will be in front of the public, that you will always be pleasant, that you will speak good things about the members of the family. I never really liked Charles, his brother. He was, shall we say, different, but he was incredibly arrogant. So there were things that were weighing on me personally. On my public side, I was all smiles. I was trying to do what they wanted me to do. But inside, I felt inadequate to truly carry out all of their expectations. So I guess mixed emotions. I was very depressed. People didn't realize that I went through periods of great depression. I suspected that Charles was back with his relationship with Camilla. I was bearing the child that would be the leader of England, and he was falling back to his old ways. So there were many things I was depressed about, and sadly I did. I thought that one of the best things to do was to end it, and it was what I tried to do.
How did you cope with this loneliness despite being constantly surrounded by people?
It was very difficult, as you can tell. It was so bad that I threw myself down the steps while I was pregnant. I tried to get some help from the doctors, but they feared in the family that it would become public knowledge that I was seeing a psychiatrist or sociologist. So I was really isolated. They were afraid that I would not be able to control my words. So I was diminished in personal appearances. The people that were around me were all simply members of the family, or those that were coaching the family and were telling me the strict rules and how I should be behaving. So it was very, very difficult. I found solace when I could go for walks and be by myself. So truly, during that period, I spent a lot of solitary time.
You transitioned from a shy teenager to a woman who spoke candidly about mental health and personal struggles. What was the turning point where you decided that your vulnerability was actually your greatest strength?
when I gave birth to my first child, that was when I realized that I had great responsibilities. When I gave birth, I understood that my responsibilities were really to what was to eventually be my two sons. I tried to raise them properly. I tried to do my best with them. I tried, well, I guess the only way I can say it is I tried to keep the royal family from influencing them as much as I could. So that the birth of my first son, that was where I truly started to understand what my ultimate responsibilities were. And my ultimate responsibilities were to myself and my two sons.
How did you balance the desire to give your sons a normal life when the reality of their royal destinies?
It was very difficult. I was finding a lot of resistance from the royal family on what I was trying to do with them. I would take them along with me on my travels, and I spent as much time with them as I could. But eventually, it was just so difficult because of what Charles was doing. I knew that I could not continue to live basically two different lives. My popularity was growing. I knew I had responsibilities to many, many other people that loved me, that wanted me to do the charities, wanted me to follow the different projects that I was doing. So I found myself essentially living two lives. But the turning point was my children, and I felt the ultimate responsibility to them.
What is the one lesson you most hoped they would carry into adulthood?
I hoped that they would understand the fact that all people are truly the same. That they are, even though by birthright, they are given these privileges and powers, that ultimately what comes down to the real truth in life is how you treat others, how you treat the people, how you maintain the fact that even though you've got this great responsibility as a member of the royal family, what is important is how you treat others, and that you have to be a normal person in an era of where everything is not normal. So I just tried to have them be normal people. That was my goal.
What are you most proud of the men that they've became?
I think I'm most proud of the fact that they truly are both individuals. Even though Harry has done things, he's drawn away from the family, but that is proof that he's been able to maintain his individual stability. Many of the decisions he has made have brought many problems to him and to the royal family. But he is standing up for what he believes. Maybe in many ways he's not doing what he should be doing, according to the public and to the royal family. But he is following his own life. Maybe he did not make the greatest choice in selection, but he truly loves his wife. He loves his children. And he is trying to maintain some of the stability that I gave him as a child. William is truly going to make a great king. He can be very stern, but he is making many of his own decisions. He is actually preparing for leadership. He has always been a leader. He always knew that he would basically be the king. And he has educated himself. Militarily, he understands things. He has married a wonderful woman They are raising their children as best they can under the circumstances. So I am really very proud of both my children. They are very, very different, but in each of their own ways, they're basically walking their own path.
Was there ever a time you were emotionally close to Charles?
I think during my second pregnancy, he relented a bit in his relationship with Camilla. He pretended to grow closer to me. I think he knew that we were growing apart, and I'm sure that his mother had told him that a divorce was out of the question for the royal family. So he pretended. I thought we were growing closer, but really it was just a short-term situation where he was, I think, trying to follow the requests of his mother.
You were one of the first global figures to touch and embrace people with HIV and AIDS. What was going through your mind during the first handshake at the Middlesex Hospital?
The fact that these people needed help. They were being scorned. They were being looked down upon. I always felt in the great equality of humans. And I knew that I wanted to do what I could to help them. So when I've actually met people with AIDS, they were no different than anyone else. They were sick people that needed help. In those days, AIDS was a death sentence. They knew they were going to die from it, yet they were trying to do their best. They were trying to use what medicines were available. But it was a group of people then that had basically death sentences. And I knew that they needed help. And for me, when a person needed help, I tried to respond.
How did you handle the weight of being the voice for the voiceless?
It was very difficult. And by doing it, I knew that I was stirring animosities within the royal family. I knew that Charles was disagreeing that I should be doing these things. He felt that there were many other things that he would do that I could do that better supported the royal family. He felt that I was on a path of personal fame. The people were speaking about me rather than him. I think part of it was jealousy because I was having results with the people that he was unable to have. So I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to follow a path of love and helping for others. And that was what I did. But it did create problems. As my popularity grew, Charles became more distant. And the Queen felt that I should be doing more for the royal family and that I was doing too much for myself. So yes, I was creating a difficult path, but it was what I wanted to do with my life.
How did you feel when you found out that Charles was going to marry Camilla Parker Bowles?
I knew it was coming. I knew it was inevitable. There were times that he would, shall we say, rub her in my face, that he would speak of her in front of me, that he would tell me that I had shortcomings that she didn't have. So I absolutely knew it was coming. It was no surprise. And I can't say that I was elated by it, but I knew it was inevitable.
When you walked through the minefields of Angola, did you realize in that moment that you were fundamentally changing the way the public engaged with political causes?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, the people in Angola were not thought of highly by the royal family. The minefields, they were a terrible risk for the people. Hundreds and thousands of their young were simply playing in the fields and stepping on these mines. I felt very strongly that those that could had a responsibility to help people that were in need. Now that I'm over here, I understand that I was truly pursuing what I was sent back to do. When you break something for others and putting landmines in their playgrounds and fields where children play, you are truly breaking the rules for an entire social system. So I felt that by me bringing the attention to it, I could serve a great need. Before I did this, the royal family was basically ignoring situations such as this. Through the years, the British Empire had abused many, many people, had enforced their will upon them. So I was actually doing something that was counter to what had been done through the years, but I was doing what I intended to do. I intended to help as many people as I could. I knew that my time of being married to Charles was going to be relatively short. So I knew I had limited time, and I tried to take advantage of it.
What advice would you give about maintaining self-worth in a difficult relationship?
The most important thing that you can do in a difficult relationship is not believe that you are inferior, that you are secondary. You must always try to do what makes you the happiest. God wants you to be happy. When you're in a difficult relationship, it is a terrible thing, because if a person that you thought you loved is abusing you mentally, verbally, there is no way that you can find happiness. I began to realize this. I put up with it longer than I should have, but I knew the implications of divorce when you're a member of the royal family. It cost me many things, but I knew that my personal happiness was more important than putting up with the adversity that I was feeling from my relationships in the royal family. So I did what I had to do. And I would tell anybody that is listening, if they're in a bad relationship, get out of it. Do what you need to do to find your own personal happiness. If you're in a bad relationship, it is very difficult for you to do what is needed. God wants you to help others, to find happiness, to show love. If you're being shown hatred, you will feel like you must return that hatred, and it will destroy you. The only way to find salvation from hatred is to get away from it. And that is what I did.
What was your relationship like with Princess Anne?
I had a decent relationship, but not a great one. Princess Anne had the trappings of royalty, but we had a decent relationship.
What were your spiritual beliefs, and when did they change throughout your life?
I grew up with I always believed in God. I always felt that God was watching over me, and I felt that when Charles asked me to marry him, that I was being blessed, that I was being given an opportunity to do great things with my life. As our relationship soured, I still was trying to figure out how I could do great things with my life. I never let it affect my belief in God. I felt that he would give me a way to do what I needed to do to serve him. I did things that I should not have done with my personal life, but I always truly believed in God. And I knew that ultimately I would be serving him by serving the people. when I went to the minefields, the hospitals, I felt that I truly was serving what God wanted me to do. So I had great faith throughout my life, and I did not waver.
What events or events resulted in you deciding that you wanted a divorce?
He was just openly speaking about his affair. He was treating me with disdain. It was a very, very difficult time in my life. I felt that I was entitled to be happy in my life. I felt that I was entitled to help others, to live my life the way I wanted to live it. I did not truly know where God was going to guide me, but I knew that when you are in a relationship of disdain and hatred, that you will develop hatreds. I truly believed in my heart that you should not hate. But I was getting into a situation where there was no other way, and I was feeling these deep hatreds, and I knew I had to get out of them. So that is truly what I did.
How did Queen Elizabeth react to the news that you wanted a divorce?
She was furious. She had spoken with me many times that even though there were going to be small problems in my life, that once you accept the fact that you have joined the royal family, you have accepted a way of life, and that divorce was going to bring many, many hatreds towards the royal family. When she found out that I was going to go through with it, she was not a happy person.
Did you ever have any regrets over obtaining the divorce?
No, I never did. That was the key to me finding happiness in my life. I thought that being the Queen of England would be, or the Princess of Wales, or whatever I was going to be the ultimate happiness. I had everything. All I had to do was ask for something and it would appear. But I found out the hard way that such a life really only brings sadness. I was losing my individuality. Life as a royal takes away your individuality. You have to conform. They feel there are rules that you need to follow and there's no way out. I knew that the only way was to leave the royal family because this was not how I wanted to live my life. I wanted my children to see what a normal way of life was. That's why I traveled with them so much. But no, I knew that there was no way that marriage was going to last because I simply was not going to put up with it.
What was your hardest moment and what did it teach you?
I think my hardest moment was when I told the Queen that I was going to go through with the divorce. She was an incredibly powerful person. She had very strong feelings about the royal family and protecting it. I knew then by her reaction that I had made the right decision. Because I knew even if I stayed, things were not going to be normal. That I would be living under a cloud. That they would always be in fear that I would be leaving or doing something to discredit them. So I think my toughest moment was when I told her that I would be leaving. It was a very difficult time, to say the least.
And what did you learn from that?
I learned that I made the right decision because she was telling me how strong the relationships within the royal family are. After the way Charles treated me, I never truly felt that close to the family. So I knew the only way that I would ever find personal happiness was to get out of it. Her reaction just simply reiterated that I made the right decision.
Was the royal family responsible for your death?
Yes. And I would choose not to say any more about it.
As you watch from the other side, what is your opinion of what's taking place with Harry and Meghan?
I have mixed emotions. I think Harry truly loves Meghan, and I would never want any of my opinions to interfere with what makes him happy. But Harry also misses the trappings of royalty that he grew up with. Meghan is capable of following her own path. There are things that she wants in his life that I don't think are bringing Harry the true happiness that he felt that he was going to have. He truly loves his children. He's very devoted to them. And that makes me very, very happy. So Harry is living the life that he has chosen. I am never going to say that he made a bad choice or that he's living a bad life, because Harry is basically a very good person. He, in many ways, made the decision I made. He just made it differently. I think he knew when he married Meghan that there was a good probability it wasn't going to work out with the royal family. But he still followed his heart. And that is what I did. And I would never criticize him for doing it.
Do you think Meghan truly loves Harry?
In her own way. Meghan loves fame and popularity. She also loves her husband and the children. So I think that's the best way to answer your question.
Do you think Harry and William will ever reconcile?
I honestly can't answer that. William is extremely upset. And William knows how important it is to keep the reputation of the royal family. And I don't think he wants to take a chance of bringing Meghan back into the royal family. And Harry would never come back without her. So I think that is your answer.
How would you like to be remembered beyond the titles and headlines?
I would like to be remembered as a common person that tried to help others, that did my best to help the underdogs in life, to help those that had been forgotten, to help people like the children that were affected by landmines, the people with AIDS, the people who were being shunned. I considered myself an underdog, that I was treated as one in the royal family, and that many things happened to me because of the way that I wanted to live my life. I tried to find happiness. The happiest moments I had when I was helping those that needed help the most. The saddest times I had were when I was living the life of royalty. So there were times that I did find true happiness in my life, but it was probably an inverse relationship to what people thought that it should be. So I just simply want to be remembered as a person who truly went out of her way to help others.
Now that you're on the other side, what unfinished dreams or goals have stayed with you?
I wish I had been able to live longer to help more people. I was going to start more charities. I had ideas of what I wanted to do to bring medical aid to the poor in the underprivileged countries of Africa. Africa has the potential to be a great problem in the future because there are so many people that are being abused in that country. When people are abused, they turn to violence, they turn to all the things that really don't help them advance among the so-called civilized countries. So basically, I just wanted to help more people. I wanted to find happiness. I wanted to continue my relationship with my children. I wanted to watch them grow up and mature and be what I hoped they would be. So my life was cut short, and I had many things planned. And as I watch over here, I think it's going to affect my future life and my life plan in the future. When I come back, I'm going to help more people, and I'm trying to do some of the things that I never got to do.
Do you have a special message for each of your children? One for Prince William first, and then for Harry?
I think I have one message for both of them. I think each of them need to follow their hearts. They do need to do what is best for others. They need to remember that even though they are people of power, that God is still the most powerful in their lives. And as long as they're doing what God wants them to do, they'll find happiness in their own ways. They are walking different paths. And it is quite possible that those paths will never meet again. But just for them to be true to themselves, do what brings them the most happiness. Do what they can do to help the most people. As long as they do that, they will know what true happiness is.
Do you have a special message for your daughters-in-law, for Princess Kate and Meghan Markle?
Yes. Each of them need to do what is best for their husbands. If they are doing things that are bringing unhappiness to their husbands, they need to stop. They need to support what will make each of their husbands happiest. Each must understand the backgrounds of my children. Each of them are or were members of the royal family. My one son is going to be one of the most influential people in the world. He has to understand how to use that influence to his best advantage, how to use his influence in the best way to help others. My other son is not going to ever know the trappings of royalty, but he has the ability to use his reputation, his past, who he is, to serve God and to help others in many different ways. He can go out and start charities and truly devote himself to helping others. If he does that and stops, shall we say, showing the shortcomings of the royal family, then there is a possibility through him doing good that he and his brother can reconcile sometime in the future. He has got to not show resentments towards the royal family, even though he has reason to do so. He must find his own happiness. He must be a wonderful father and use his fame to help others, not to harm others. So my two children are very different, but in their own ways, they are wonderful people. They're each following their own path, and they are doing, I think, the best they can with the decisions that they've made. They both have to rely on prayer and guidance from God, and they'll both be fine.
Since you're not here to interact with your 5 grandchildren, what message would you have for them for the future?
I would tell all of them that they need to understand that in God's eyes, all people are equal. That even though they are blessed in so many ways with the trappings of royalty and wealth, that they must use those trappings to help others. That they must try to do what I did, even though I was a very famous person. I tried to help those that needed help. And that all of my grandchildren must understand that their souls are equal with every other soul. They must use the gifts that they're given to help others, not for self-endearment, but to truly understand the happiness that will come if they follow the path that I tried to follow.
If you could send one message to the people of today, what would it be?
To stop showing the hatreds that are tearing relationships apart throughout the world. They have got to find a way of forgiveness. They must learn that they have to live with their neighbors in peace. They must understand that the road to hatred is going to be the road to self-destruction. The weapons of today are ferocious. They can actually wipe out all humanity on this planet if they're used in the wrong manner or in any manner. Nuclear disarmament has got to take place if the planet is going to continue into the future. As long as there's no control over who gets these terrible weapons, there's an incredible risk for humans. The answer is to teach the young to follow the teachings of God, to pass on love, and to be loved. They must learn the simple fact that they must not do anything to others they don't want done to themselves. The golden rule will lead humans into the future. Hatreds will destroy them. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak once more. I truly, truly appreciate the opportunity. I tried to do the best I could with my life. Unfortunately, there were those that felt that I was harming them. Unfortunately, my life was cut short. But I still try to influence over here as best I can. So thank you so much, and may God bless all of you that are listening. Goodbye.
Thank you, Princess Diana.
Wow. Pretty good show, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lots of information.
Yeah. Yeah. What a great soul. She's just absolutely spectacular. So anyway, folks, we're going to be back again next Friday. Don't know what it's going to be, but it'll be as good as this one. Eleanor comes up with some good ideas. I told her last night I didn't know what I wanted to do today, and she gave me a list, and this was on the top. So turned out pretty good, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely did. Always does.
Okay. So thank you all. We'll be back again next week. Welcome to Pathways. Please tell others about us. And I think we'll continue to bring you some pretty good shows. So goodbye and have a blessed week.
Bye, everyone.